Next runner for state representative is Jim Pruitt. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Good word, Scott. As we travel around this district, I just want to tell you that it's a blessing to come to Rockwall for breakfast in the early mornings, because this is the largest crowd we usually ever speak to. And I want to thank the Rockwall Republican County Men's Club for putting these events on, because if you didn't do that, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be educated, and I appreciate that. I first want to introduce my wife, who's here with me. Most of you know, she's your district attorney, Kenda Culpepper. And I say that because some campaign people the other day told me, said, you know, as you go around campaigning, you need to tell Kenda she needs to be your quiet, dutiful wife that goes around with you. And I looked over and said, I'd rather be in a room full of rattlesnakes and flip-flops. Anyway, thank you very much for having us. I just want to tell you, I am pro-life, I am pro-business, and I'm pro-education. Those are the issues that we are facing in Texas. Congressman Hall, good to see you here this morning. We appreciate you being with us. Education. You know, Scott was talking about that he's a product of public education. We have a chance in this state to lose all of our local control of public education. And you know, this started a while ago when you created the Department of Education in Washington, all the mandates that come down to try to homogenize our children. All right, it's pure socialism. You're going to take these tests that we send down to you, you're going to teach your kids these things in your public schools, and everybody's going to do it the same. Well, what happened in Texas? It started with Robin Hood. It started with the Robin Hood bill saying that we're going to share the wealth between all the school districts in Texas. We're going to share what the curriculum is going to be in all these school districts. What did that do? It took away local control of schools. So what's happening now? A bill has already been written and will be filed the first day of the session that says we are going to create a statewide property tax. A new statewide property tax that's going to fund all of our education. It is wrong, and I will never go for it. There is, in education, I just want to tell you, I'm a product of education. Kenda is a product of public education. We all went to public schools. My children have all attended public schools. I have a 4-year-old that next year will be in kindergarten in Rockwall Public Schools. All right? As Scott said too, public schools were good. All right? We've educated a lot of good people. You have some of the best schools in Rockwall, Collin County, Frisco has some of the best schools that are in this state. But if we don't do something about it, they're all going to be the same, because they're all going to be controlled by the state government and the federal government. You know, I got out of high school, went to work in oil refineries. Started working in oil refineries, made my way to Valdez, Alaska, working on the transatlantic pipeline. You know, I learned a lot up there. I learned a lot about traveling. I learned a lot about cold. But I also learned that it was time to go back to Texas and get an education. Came to Dallas, got my degree, worked my way through University of Texas at Dallas, got my degree in political science. Immediately went to law school, graduated from Baylor Law School, and decided, hey, I can be a businessman, I can be a lawyer. So what did I do? I started a small law firm. What I learned was that as being a small businessman, that the people that worked for me, the people that sent the bills to me every month, the people that paid the tax bill, they were looking to me. If I didn't work, none of them got paid. You know, when you think about business, all we need in this state to have a great businesses move here, good education system, good water, what else do we need? Low taxes and low regulation. If we'll do those things, we'll attract those businesses into Texas. I always thought, and I've thought about this for a long time, I think that all taxes should be due on April 15th, local, state, and federal. Then we ought to have all of our elections on April 16th, federal, state, and local. This would be a different state we live in. After I became a lawyer, I got involved in my community. I became a volunteer firefighter, which I did for 8 years. I was appointed to a planning and zoning commission, became its chair. During that time, we were facing mammoth growth. Apartments, things of high density zoning coming in, sexually oriented businesses. I was then hired as the city prosecutor. As to that, we handled all of these things. Little League coach, Odyssey of the Mind coach. I got involved in Republican politics. You know, Kenda might think that she's the big hoop-de-doo being a young Republican. I was a young Republican a long time before she was. But as that, I learned some things. I was on the national board for Young Republicans, attended every state, local convention that we had for Republicans. You know, 6 years ago, I was called upon by the Republican National Committee to go to Iowa. We voted early, went to Iowa so that we were on a ballot security strike force. And the reason being because those midterm elections were going to get rid of a lot of good Republicans if we didn't have safe ballots. I'd been through election contests here in North Texas, so we went up there and manned the phones as lawyers talking to people about what people could and could not do in the ballot. I was elected judge in Dallas, spent 8 years, 2 terms on the bench. At that time, the 17 judges that were there elected me as their presiding judge. I then became the local administrative judge. One of the things that we were finding in Dallas was that people were falling through the cracks dealing with family violence, issues of family violence and domestic violence. When we decided, look, we're not being able, because of all the cases that we have, to give the attention that we need. Let's go get the legislature to create us a new court, and we will mandate that that court just handle domestic violence issues so they can be specialized at it. So what did we do? We went to Austin, wrote the bill, got the House sponsor, the Senate sponsor. Everything was fine. It was a local bill. It was flying through until all of a sudden it stopped in the House Calendars Committee. And the reason being is because Florence Shapiro was our Senate sponsor, and her and the Calendars Committee, chairman in the House, got into a real argument. Therefore, nothing was going to come through the House that Florence's name was on. So, I will tell you, it was very disheartening. It was the last day that it could come through the Calendars Committee, and what do? I had to make a phone call that I dreaded making, and that was to John Wiley Price, County Commissioner in Dallas. And you have to realize why that was such a problem for me to try to enlist his support to get this local bill through the Calendars Committee, because I was the judge who put him in jail not only once, but twice. And I will tell you, though, he made the phone call because it was what was right for the community. The next day, that bill sailed through the Calendars Committee and became law, and we had our first domestic violence court. We also created a weapons education safety training program. I'm a firm believer in Second Amendment rights. We created a program in which we taught the law enforcement, schools, to teach people how they could protect themselves legally without getting afoul of the law. Because we were seeing people come into the courts that were like you guys, okay? These weren't criminals out on the street. These were people that had pistols to protect themselves, and they were going to jail for it. And so we created this program even before the law changed, to educate people on how they could protect themselves. There is issues of water, and I think, you know, us being in a lake community, that is the #1 issue that we face. You know, Mayor, you did a good job writing your little article the other day about conservation, and I believe in it. We have to conserve water, but we have to have the resources. We have to go and create those lakes. We have to go and create that area. Just as the North Texas Municipal Water District, Larry Parks is our representative on that. He and I have had a lot of conversations about what we have to do in Texas. Because this every year of going into water restrictions, almost every year, has got to stop. Okay? It discourages business. It discourages people from coming into our community. Illegal immigration. It's very simple. The word illegal immigration. It's illegal. If something is illegal, people ought to be punished for it. Now, as to illegal immigration, I just want to tell you that one thing the Sanctuary City Bill did not pass. But one thing did pass, and that was that you have to show proof of citizenship in order to obtain your Texas driver's license. Well, how did that make any difference? Well, now, because you can't get a driver's license, you can't get insurance. So when police officers stop someone and they don't have insurance or a driver's license, 99% of the time they're going to jail. All right? All we have to do is change the Code of Criminal Procedure to say that when that person is brought before a magistrate, that magistrate must consider their immigration status in setting bond. Okay? That will be able to keep them in the county jails, okay, until they take care of their state cases. All right? Once we handle that, I want every one of these people, I want Sheriff Evanson to load his cars up and take them down there on Commerce and turn them over to the U.S. Marshal Service. And if they let them go, that's fine. That's the federal government's business. But we've done our part in this state to say we're going to stop it. Yes. I want to tell you that each agency in the state government, what they do now is bring you their last year's budget and say we need 10% more. All right? That's what happens every single time. Every agency in this state needs to come before the legislature, start at zero, and tell me each of the things that you need and why you need it. You know, I can hit the ground running in this. I've been down there. I've been in the trenches. I know how the legislative system works. I know how you have to manipulate the system. And I just want to tell you, I thank all of you in this room that have endorsed me and supported my campaign. I couldn't have done it without you. The other day, I was going through some old papers that Kendall's grandmother had left in a box. And I came across an old church bulletin from the 1950s. And in that church bulletin, and I figured she must have kept it for this quote that was in there. And it said, some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen. And some people are just clueless about what's happening. And I say that to tell you that we as Republicans, our job is to educate the clueless, that our way is the way for America and the way for the state of Texas. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the only true revolution that has ever taken place in man's history. Every other revolution simply exchanged one set of rulers for another set of rulers. But only here did that little band of men so advanced beyond their time that the world has never seen their like since, evolve the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny. But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free. Thank you.